Welcome to another segment of the Gay Barchives series, where we talk about gay entertainment from the past. I'm your host, Art Smith, and our special guest tonight is a playwright from Texas who then became an LA-based director, writer, producer, stand-up comedian, gay and human rights activist, and all-around shit stirrer. He's a self-proclaimed minor gay celebrity. Welcome, Del Shores. So it's good to see you
Sorry, I'm a
again.
little late. You too. How are you?
Excellent. Living life in paradise.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good. Where now remind me where you are, what city you are?
Tampa, Florida.
Oh yeah.
The same place
Oh
you saw me last
God.
time.
Yes. Okay, it's all coming back. Well, I've done a few things in my life and I'm getting fucking old. So a lot of times I get mixed cities and where am I? And it's been a whole year of Zoom. Uh, you know.
I understand. It's been a strange year for all of us. So, as you know, this project that I'm working on is all about archiving information, logos, stories about gay bars from the past. And personally, I feel it's very important because it has a lot to do with where we've come to today. You know, the bar scene had a lot to do with building our community. But I stumbled across some information today. I was speaking to a mutual friend, Robert Kamina.
Yeah.
And we
I
were,
love Robert.
isn't he great?
Yeah.
He's done an incredible video about the tragic fire at the Upstairs Lounge in Louisiana, which is something many people don't know about. But then he more recently, did one about the Rainbow Lounge raid in Fort Worth. And I know that was something that was kind of near and dear to your heart. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Well, I mean, Robert came to me, and I had that raid happened, I guess, after I had done an event there, and or I had at least been at that bar for because Fort Worth has been a very big deal in my life. They've Circle Theater did a lot of my plays, and the film festival there screened a lot of my movies. And so I'd been there, and then all of a sudden that happened. And so I went back and helped raise money. And then, of course, did a little appearance in his documentary. So Robert's done such great work. I just love that he shines a light on injustice and our history,
Yeah, it's a great movie. I watched it again today, and it's very moving. It really teaches people a lot. But what people don't realize is, in the course of my research, I've discovered a lot of stories that predate Stonewall about riots and raids and things that impacted the gay community around the country. But what a lot of people don't realize is the story of the raid at the Rainbow Lounge actually occurred 40 years to the day after Stonewall, 2009.
Right.
That's very recent history to still be having that kind of treatment in the gay community.
It was crazy. It was like, here we were, all this, progress was being made, and you're thinking, what? How the hell is this happening? In my home state. I mean, I often joke about people go, why'd you leave Texas? You write about Texas, you embrace Texas. And I go, yeah, well, it's a great place to be, except for the the racism and the bigotry. And there are lots of great people in all red states. There are lots of great people. You're talking about bars. I have played many bars in red states with my stand-up, and people go, you sell tickets? I go, yeah, because I'm alternative programming. So yeah.
So when did you first discover the kind of gay bar scene and plying your trade there, or going there just as a patron?
Well, it started as a patron. I mean, I came out so late in life and had been in a marriage to my ex-wife and had two girls, and so I made up for lost time in West Hollywood. So the first West Hollywood and Cedar Springs in Dallas were kind of my first hangs. And I mean, I don't even know how I got sleep back when I first came out. I was in my mid 30s and I was like going to alternative night at Rage, on Monday nights, and then happy hour or karaoke over at Revolver on Tuesday nights. And then maybe I had a break on Wednesday. And then, there's always something going on. And Friday nights were the great. I loved Friday nights because of Club Cherry, that was just celebrating. It was just celebrating everybody. That's what was so great about it. It was, straights dancing with gay guys, and androgyny and 80s music. It was so the bar scene for me started with me as a patron. And then, of course, when I started doing stand-up, I got invited to a lot of bars to perform, and in these beautiful spaces. And I filmed the Rose Room, where Leslie Jordan and I used to just go after Sordid Lives was in Fort Worth. We would go to the Rose Room and watch drag, and it's where Asia O'Hara, from Drag Race was there. And this is back when it was just tiny, and now they've expanded. It's huge. And I've done so many shows there and filmed, I think 3 of my stand-up specials there at the Rose Room.
Now, speaking of Leslie Jordan, I know you two have a long history, and some of that involves clubbing together, and some of that involves working together. And Leslie made a comment to me in an interview about 6 or 7 years ago that all of your stories about, gay situations in your writing come from his life, that you've basically stolen his life story and translated it into a quasi-fictional episode.
Oh, so he was in a mental institution? And address this 10 point apps, because I don't remember that being part of his life journey.
Is that where
yeah, I think, look, here's the deal. Leslie has told me a million stories. I have lived a lot of stories with Leslie. So yes, a lot of those are, it's mainly though in Southern Baptist sissies, because when I wrote Peanut, Leslie had already gotten sober. And Leslie, of course, had confessed so many stories. It was this hustler bar in Los Angeles called Hunters, and that was his hang. And I would hear about all these boys, and so all of those stories about that came out of Peanut's mouth. Yes, they were. At least the germ started with Leslie, and of course I embellished them to make it right for that. So when I presented the play to him, which was a play first, he says, "Well, thanks for putting all my secrets in this, in his mouth." And I said, "Well, will you do it?" And he said, "Absolutely." So
yeah, he's a great character. He's a wonderful person.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of gay bar situations, you also, a lot of people know this, some maybe don't. You wrote for 3 seasons working on Queer as Folk, the last 3 seasons, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And that was one of the most iconic representations of gay nightlife on video ever in the history of mainstream television. I mean, I don't think we've ever seen an expose or an insight into what the gay club culture was like as much as we did in that series. What was that like? How did you relate to working on that?
Well, what was wonderful about working on Queer as Folk was the creators of Queer as Folk, the American version, Ron Cowan and Dad Littman. They hired all gay writers, and they really wanted our lives and we took from our lives, not just for the bars, but also relationships or whatever. So we would share a whole lot in the writers' room, And it was kind of an amazing time for me because it was such a hit when I came on to the show that Showtime was not censoring us on any level. I mean, it was like we wrote whatever we wanted. They did not, there was nobody like many TV shows. There's a lot of hands that are and mouths that tell you what to do. We had total creative control when we were writing that show. It was a beautiful place to be. So I love that we were. What I loved about Queer as Folk as a fan, the first two seasons before I became a writer producer on the show, was I loved that we didn't just celebrate, but we told the truth. And quite honestly, we got in trouble with a lot of the gay community because some of our gay community, the A gays who are on all the boards, they did not want that part of exposure. They did not want us to be telling, about the drugs, about, the back rooms or what, the blowjobs in the back or whatever. They felt like that was something we shouldn't be exposing. And I just think that it was, it was a great celebration. Besides, it was great truth telling.
Yeah, and it was a great show. I remember I actually have a Texas connection to Queer as Folk from the first time I ever saw it. I was living in Austin at the time, and the Dallas Gay Film Festival had a viewing of the original British version of Queer as Folk back in, I think, 99 or 2000. And I was living there at the time. So that was the first time I was exposed to Queer as Folk. And shortly after seeing that, they announced that it was going to be coming to the US in a new version. And I was like, wow, this is going to be really cool, because it was just, I almost felt left out that the Brits had this, brilliant comedy, and we had nothing even remotely similar.
And it was brilliant. The British version, Russell Davies, who created that, it was just brilliant. They keep asking for a reboot, and they say that there is going to be, but they went to the original source, so it's not going to be a reboot of anything related to the American version if they indeed do it. I haven't heard that much about it lately, but they were dealing with Russell on that. But it was. I remember. I don't. Did you ever go, like, you were at a film festival? So do you remember when the American version came out, and at all the film festivals they had these like church fans, and they would have like Brian Kenny, and it would say top, and then it would Justin bottom, and Emmett Queen. It was just so brilliantly marketed for us. And we finally felt like we had something that was ours.
Right.
And and it premiered on my birthday, December 3rd. I always remember it with every fan at Outfest said December 3rd coming, 2001, I believe, is when it premiered.
All right, then. Yeah, that was great. Now, in the course of my research, I've had a couple of people from different parts of the country claim that their bar or their favorite bar in their hometown was actually used for some filming of the Babylon bar scenes. And you tried to kind of call me out on it today on your show with Emerson, but where were the bar scenes actually filmed for Queer as Folk?
Yes, I was like, I wasn't really, that was for, that was basically in response to someone who always asks us questions that should be Googled. And my point was on the show, which I don't know if I expressed well, is that I was asked, where did we film Babylon? And I was going, I had to Google. I mean, I literally had to go on Google to answer this question. The reason I honestly didn't know is when I came on the show, it was at we were already on a sound stage, so it was a replica of what. So I did Google it, and I think it was Fly was the name of the bar. Am I right?
I don't know.
Or you don't know?
I've heard mixed reviews.
But it literally was down there on Church Street, in Toronto, because we filmed Queer as Folk in Toronto. Right. So of course, doubling for Liberty Avenue in Pittsburgh. But they did use those bars and for Woody's as well. There, what was the irony was there was a Woody's bar right there that I believe that they shot the first couple of seasons. But it makes so much sense when you're a hit to then build the sets on
Right.
sound stages so you can contain you can contain the noise. You can really shoot later or earlier. You don't have to rely on the bar closing down. So
Right.
I think that's why I think it was called Fly, if I'm
Yeah,
not
there
mistaken.
was one or two people who had mentioned to me that the alley scenes and stuff outside the bar were actually shot where Pegasus is or
That
was
that
in Pittsburgh.
that sounds right. That sounds right.
So that was a pretty cool
Um,
show too.
but it was, that it was so interesting because some of us, we were working on the show, even some of the actors, and we were going, we're set in Pittsburgh, and I at that point I'd never even been to Pittsburgh when I got cast. I mean, when I got hired to be on the a writer on the show. So I had to Google. I really did. I had to go look at Liberty Avenue and and let me tell you something. The Queer as Folk version was a lot. I think the gay scene there was a little more happening than the real Liberty Avenue. And everybody from Pittsburgh always says, "Oh yeah, you made us
You
you
made
made
us
us
look
look a lot.
great.
Yeah, well, you made us look great." So, but that's again a fun time, such a great opportunity for me. It was my favorite gig in TV to this day.
Very cool. Even over your own.
Yes, it was. I mean, I loved everything. Here's the thing about Queer as Folk. There is not one bad taste in my mouth about that show. There's no bad. With Sordid Lives, the series, it was an amazing shoot. I loved working, and of course, being that in control of writing and directing every episode. The creativeness of it was the best experience, but the aftermath of what happened to us really destroyed that great memory. So I've returned and looked at it, and it's like that with life. It's like I was married to Jason Dotley at the time, and I remember such great memories that we had making that together. Then he divorced me, and I look at it. It was really hard for me to watch the show for a long time.
Right.
Uh, during the pandemic, we've become friendlier, which has been nice. So I actually watched the whole thing during the pandemic. I showed it every night on my fan page on Facebook.
Yeah, I've met Jason. As the only thing I remember really about the experience meeting him here in Tampa, he was performing, I think, at Honeypot. The only thing I remember distinctly about the evening is drinking shots of bourbon with him.
That sounds right.
So I know we had some conversation. I don't remember much of it.
Yeah.
So along the course of your career, you've been involved in a lot of different projects that you've written, you've scripted, you've invented yourself. The Sordid Lives, the Southern Baptist Sissies. Right now, you're working on a kind of news and entertainment show called Dell and Emerson. But a lot of us have already seen a lot of that. We're familiar with those things. I was speaking to another mutual friend of ours today, Leslie Kimball, and she said, she said, tell you hi and give you big hugs, and to ask him about his latest play, This Side of Crazy.
Oh, well, that's so sweet. Leslie has become a very good friend, and I was so fortunate that I was able to mentor her a little bit with her play. And when I read it, I said, "Oh my God, someone!" Because you get sent a lot of things, and they're not always good. But it was Floral Broads, and I helped her get it published with Samuel French. So that was very sweet of her. Yeah, I had right before the pandemic. In fact, it hit the last 2 weeks of the run here. I had a crazy great experience with that play. First in San Francisco, it premiered. It's 4 women. It's Diddy Blaylock and the Blaylock sisters, and it's a week in their life when the most famous gospel songwriter, reunites her daughter for this tribute, her daughters who were once little superstars for Jesus. And there's a lot of shit in that family. There is a lot of dark secrets. So it was really fun to create that with the cast and the great team up in San Francisco at New Conservatory Theater Center first, and then here at the Zephyr Theater. And we just got 6 Ovation nominations here in LA. And ironically, yesterday, Del Dickey and I, right here where I'm standing, we filmed our acceptance speeches, which we may not win. It was like, because if they're not going to be, they may not be like, and I was like, how pathetic is this going to be? If we do not win, and we made these acceptance speeches as if we won.
Right.
So,
especially if they pull a Family Feud flop and play the wrong acceptance video after you don't accept it.
What I was telling someone, I said, because I've actually done a couple of stand-up Zooms where they Zoom bomb. Have you ever had that happen where all of a sudden, like, 2 guys fucking just come into the, that will distract from your stand-up. I will tell you right now, that happened to me with Uncabaret. And I was thinking, I wonder if I could just, and the winner is, and just Zoom bomb my acceptance speech right there.
There you go. That would be very cool. So Leslie also, she's trying to tell all your secrets. She said, ask about fun walks with Beverly D'Angelo.
It's so funny you ask. Tomorrow, actually, Beverly and I are going on we're doing a little road trip down to Santa Barbara to look at a house she wants to rent for a couple of months. And Beverly is one of my dearest friends. We reconnected early pandemic thanks to our mutual friend, Brandy Clark, the country singer. And she was Evelita in my movie, Daddy's Dying, Who's Got the Will. And, as it goes, your lives go different ways. And she raised two amazing kids. I raised my kids. And then suddenly we just start talking every day. And then we start hiking together. And so we did a bunch of Instagram post called, Bev and Del. And we just talked shit and we made up shit. We'd love to lie. We just love to create lies. So she's a fun gal. And I can't wait to actually go out with Beverly to a bar or something after this is all over, because it's all, COVID is just, you cherish those friendships where, they're in your bubble, and I just got my first vaccine, so I'm going to be able to see more people and hug more people.
Exactly. I don't know if this is a good sign or not. I got mine Friday, the first one, and they automatically schedule you for the second one when you get the first one. And when they gave me the card back, it said April 1st. I don't know if I should be concerned. Is April Fool's a good day to be getting your vaccine?
I think so. Art, I'm having my shoulder replaced on April Fool's Day. So I'm like, is that okay? I think it's okay.
Yeah, why not?
I think, my second one's scheduled for the 24th. I'm going to try to get it a little earlier because, did you get Pfizer?
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
They didn't give me a choice, but.
Me neither, but I'm glad I got Pfizer. I like what I'm hearing about everything.
Well, plus you're supporting the company that made Viagra, right?
There you go.
So
I guess maybe they'll give us some free samples just along with the vaccine. We should ask. Now, on that second vaccine, we go, by the way.
Definitely. So you've worked with a number of different celebrities in your different shows that you've done over the years, and a couple that stick out in my head that, maybe you can just say something a little bit about. One of them is a woman that I just absolutely love. The first time I went to interview her, she had been Grand Marshal at the Disney Easter Parade in Orlando. And we had an appointment. I showed up at her suite at the Wilderness Lodge, and she answered the door in a big, fluffy, pink bathrobe and her hair in curlers. Carolyn
Caroline
Ray.
Ray. Of course, I guessed it. I said the other day, I was like, um, we did this. She said, "Can I FaceTime with you?" Because she was going to ask me some questions about this script she was co-writing, and she and her writing partner came on, and I said, "Could you just do your hair?" I mean, she is amazing. I love her so much. She is who she is. She is truly one of the funniest people I have ever met in my life, and one of my very best friends to this day. In fact, I'm going to call her when we get done with this and tell her that she did some interview in a bathrobe. It sounds so much like her, though.
Well, yeah, and then about I guess about 2 or 3 months later, that had happened in Orlando. About 2 or 3 months later, I was in Hollywood, and I was doing some promotion with different shows, talk show hosts, Jay Leno and Donnie and Marie when they still had their show, and for a fundraiser I was doing for the Elton John AIDS Foundation, and that was in like '99. So I was waiting to get into the Donnie and Marie show, and Caroline Ray comes running up in a jogging suit, and this is early in the morning, and she's all flustered, and she's looking for where one of the stagehands was or something. And I was like, "Hey, how you doing?" She's okay, but I'm looking for, my friend, blah, blah, blah. She had locked herself out of her apartment, and he had a spare key. So she had to come to the studio to get a spare key from the stagehand. And I thought, this is crazy. This is just stuff that doesn't happen in real life. But apparently in Carolyn's life, it does.
Oh, it just sounds so much like her. I used to tell her, I said, you're just Nolita with money. I mean, that's, because Nolita's all over the place. She is amazing.
But she's one of the most genuine people, though.
I love that in her stand-up, she used to say, I'm the kind of celebrity that fans at some point just say, I just really wanted a picture. I'm good. I'm good. Because she's got great stories. She's the reason I do stand up. She is truly the one who told me to do it, because I was doing a one-man play my first time when it was My Sordid Life, and she came to see it when I played New York, and afterwards the next day she said, if we pull some of those stories, that's stand up. And she said, and you can open for me. And so she took me on the road with her, and I did several shows with Caroline Ray, and she really taught me how to connect with an audience. And so yay, Caroline Ray. I love her.
Very cool. Now, another one that I know you've worked with a couple of times and had become kind of an icon, especially in the gay world, because of the popularity of the TV show, is Rue McClane. You've worked with her as well.
Just on the series. I mean, it was her final series, Sordid Life's a series. So I got to do 12 episodes with her, and she became a very close friend. So that was her loss. I mean, our loss, all of our loss of Rue McClane was just devastating to us. Caroline Ray loved Rue McClane, but I can't remember. Rue could insult you so fast, but in a real sharp, wonderful way. And Caroline used to say about Rue, she'd go, Rue, yes, the D is silent, correct? But yeah, such an amazing actress. And there are certain actors. Leslie Jordan's one of them. Caroline Ray's another one. But there are actors that make your work funnier, and when you cast them, and Rue was one of those. I call them freebies. Just a look, just the way you say a line. Delta Burke also had that, where she would say a line differently than you heard it in your head, and it would just bring the house down. It was Rue was genuinely, she's from Oklahoma, so we were like kindred, right next to each other. And yeah, I miss her.
So now you're going to have to script something for Betty White, because that's another
Well,
iconic.
yeah, that would be a nice. That'd be nice to write for Betty.
And
I
she'll say
worked with her.
anything. You
Yeah,
don't have
she
to worry
sure
about
will.
her watching her mouth or not saying,
No,
she's at 90, whatever, 99 years old. She's
she's
pretty much
99.
she's pretty much open to saying what's on her mind or what she
Yeah,
wants to say.
I was so fortunate to also work with Carol Cook in A Very Sordid Wedding, and Carol just turned 97 and still is just sharp, and I'm just so sharp. And it's wonderful working with seasoned comedians and comedians that it's because they know their shit. You don't have to feed them line readings. You don't have to do anything. They hear what you hear and beyond. So.
So after having worked at all these projects over the years and having a great deal of success and having, put out a pretty good body of work, I mean, when you start listing all the different pieces that you've written and performed in, it's pretty substantial. How has that changed since the pandemic? Because you were saying that, this side of crazy was kind of impacted around the opening by the pandemic. How has that affected the
My
industry?
creative mojo. The great thing is, before the pandemic, I started developing a series with Emerson, and we actually sold it during the pandemic. I can't really talk too much about it right now, but we're in heavy development. So we've stayed, even though we're isolated and we're writing over FaceTime, we've been able to continue to create. I also stumbled into something that, because everybody always wants something sorted. They always want me to return to the sorted franchise. And I found all of the short stories that were supposed to be a novel that I was writing, called The Sorted Saga, which was a prequel to the movie that inspired the series. And so when I sold the series, I just abandoned it. And I had, I believe, 18 chapters finished. And I have just finished today 31 chapters, and it's going to have 3209. It's going to have 32 chapters, and then a little bitty tag, which is going to be 3209. And so that's going to be published later on. And so I've been able to stay creative, and with Emerson on the Dell and Emerson show, but it is hard. Going back to our theme of bars, so many, I just launched a new stand-up show called The Shit Stir, and I'd done it. The last time I performed on stage was August of 2019, because I paused to direct This Side of Crazy in San Francisco, and then came back to direct it here in LA. And then after that, I was planning to go on the road a little bit. And that didn't happen. It's been income wise, took a big hit, but I'm okay. And I celebrate being okay. That, as you said, if I were dead ass broke again, I'd be a fool. But because a lot of people are struggling and with such good reason. And my empathy goes out to those people, especially who, were serving us, those people in our bars, the go-go boys, the drag queens who had to figure out a way to survive during this pandemic. It's just been so difficult.
It has.
So,
And it's changed the way we interact quite a bit. I know the past 12 months, once they started closing things down for the pandemic, which was literally almost a year ago today, it was right around
almost a year.
I kind of kicked my bar research into high gear. And in the last 12 months, I have documented over 1,300 gay bars that no longer exist,
Wow.
mostly in the US. And they date back, some of them into the mid 19th century, but for the most part, the post-war era, around the country. And it's just an amazing thing to think about how much different, even before the pandemic, our bar life had become. Because
Mm-hmm.
I think when you had your first experiences with Leslie, even though you were not coming out as a teenager, you were coming out as an adult, the bars still had a certain sense of community to them.
Yes,
They were
absolutely.
still our safe havens. They were still the places we went, not only to meet someone to sleep with or date, but also where we went to share our political views, to get support for our emotional issues, to be our authentic selves that we could not be at work or anywhere else. And
That's
the
right.
scene had already changed before the pandemic, but now even more so because I personally, I've been out to a bar, I think 2 times, 3 times in the last year, and always during like mid-afternoon happy hour when I know there's only going to be a dozen people in the bar and they're going to be
Mhm.
well distanced. The last thing I want to do right now is go into a bar that's packed with people.
Yeah, yeah, I wrote this word down when you said what are the significance of the bars in the gay community, and I said connection. We connected there, whether it be for sex, whether it be for just conversation, on the patio of Revolver, or whether it be there to celebrate, a drag night, the Dream Girls review, or whatever it is. And it's heartbreaking that, I mean, yes, we lost a lot before pandemic, but we lost Rage here in Los Angeles. We lost the Gold Coast. So many of our bars have closed here. And I remember, I don't go out that much. Let's just be honest. I'm 63 years old right now, and it sounds like a really good idea at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But around 10, when your friend's going, okay, meet me at Revolver at 10:30. I'm going, what? No. But I'm gonna take naps after the pandemic and go out some and really celebrate our bars again. And it's like I love the spirit of it, and I can't wait to be back in the Rose Room. And we filmed the Brother Boy tragic performance at the Rose Room. I can't wait to be back there and see Cassie Nova and Crystal Summers and Asia O'Hara and all the girls, and then go around the corner to the tin room and stuff dollar bills down, or $5 bills. I guess it's gonna be. I'm gonna give them tens now, down Go-Go Boys shorts. And it's just we have such a great culture. And go across the street to the Roundup and watch the line dance. So there's so many great bars. I have so many amazing memories. I love that you're doing this, by the way, because it just a floodgate of memories came over me today when I was reading your questions. And I was thinking of just walking down Bourbon Street, and there's Oz, and there's the Bourbon Pub, and the Corner Pockets around the corner. And then I miss it. I miss it a lot.
Yeah, it's a very, very different scene. I was just scheduling an interview with another club promoter who's out of New York City, and he's actually planning on opening up a 4-story super club, gay super club in Manhattan. It's already in the process of being built out and decorated,
Mm,
but he's waiting for the pandemic to kind of go away so he can open it. And it's going to be
right.
a very large multi-bar complex that's going to be on the edge of Hell's Kitchen and Times Square area of New York. So, that gives me some hope that one person who has his foot firmly planted in the
Mhm.
entertainment scene for the gay community has enough confidence to go to this extent and bring back a club, not, a little neighborhood bar with 6 stools, but something big and
Mhm.
grand. And so that gives me a little bit of hope.
Well, I think we're all going to be just ready to go into theaters. And I was thinking about that the other day, because there were times where I'm just going to stay in Friday night. I don't want to stay in anymore. When this is over, I want to go. I want to go to the Mark Taper Forum. I want to see a play. I want to go and
Right.
just celebrate. I've got to tell you though, I was thinking about going back on the road, and I was like, I just wonder if there will be openings in bars for 'cause I'm just a minor celebrity. It's like, you've got the superstars with the RuPaul's Drag Race now, and I bet there's not going to be space for me because everybody's going to be wanting to go back and perform. So we'll see.
Well,
Maybe I can.
I'm sure there's space for you. I don't think you really compete head on with drag queens for stage space.
No, I compete, with drag. I don't compete with drag queens. They always want me for the early shows. So because they all go on about 10:30 or 11, and that I will go on at 8, and when the club is usually dark. I'll play to 28 people if they'll come and show up for me.
So, Del, tell us about the Del Shores Foundation.
Again, the pandemic had us. We had to put a lot of what we are planning to do with the foundation on hold. But the Del Shores Foundation was created a couple of years ago, and my good friend Stuart Bell brought it to Emerson and myself. And what it does is we are a mentoring program for LGBTQ Southern storytellers. And it doesn't matter what age you are. If you have a story to tell, we want to help our community tell their stories. So we will be having, we'll have contests, we will have grants to theaters to produce the plays that come through the Del Shores Foundation, and short films. We have a short film competition and screenplay competition, and we will get up and running. We're about to hire an executive director. So as the pandemic is coming to a close, we can see that we can now embrace what we decided to do. So yeah, if you want more information, please just go to DelShoresFoundation.org, and you can read all about our beautiful foundation that is for storytellers.
Well, it's great being able to share some memories with you and kind of get a little bit of insight into what makes you tick. You certainly have had an important part in chronicling some of the experiences of the gay community and getting them out to mainstream audiences, because in quite a number of your works, you've had a pretty clear representation of one or more gay characters that other people in the mainstream world may never have been exposed to. We as gay people know them, but it's something that a lot of, the mainstream world just never knew about. And I think that's a really important part of recording our history and documenting who we are and what we're all about. And whether that be with Southern Baptist sissies or that be with queer as folk or whatever, you've played a part in that history, which is, really kind of a nice thing.
Well, thank you. I always just say I'm a storyteller, whether I'm standing on stage talking shit or I'm writing something or I'm writing and directing. It's just, I just want to tell my stories. And so I've been really, really fortunate that my community and beyond have embraced my work. And I have to say, I do start my days with a gratitude list. And this pandemic has made me so grateful for the history that I have and the beauty of our community, because there's a lot of good people, and I have met so many great people, and I cannot wait to be back on the road, to be at film festivals, to be in theaters, and to, as we say in the South, just to love your neck. I just want my great grandmother always go, "Oh, come here, let me love your neck, honey." Well, I'm going to love a lot of necks.
Well, we'll be looking forward to that day. Hopefully it'll be very soon.
All right. Well, this has been fun. Thanks for including me in this. I
you're
really
quite welcome.
appreciate it.